I'm going to tell you something most couples don't want to hear. Love doesn't disappear, attention does. When attention disappears, intimacy quietly follows it out the door. Most people think relationships fall apart because something went wrong. The truth is usually much simpler. Hi, I'm Anne, and I want to invite you inside the Annihilation Edge community because starting March 16th, 2026, I'm going to have a Relationship Deeper Connection series. And we're going to touch on all relationships with your partner, with your children, with your extended family. So your mom, dad, brother, sister, extended family, even beyond that if they're in your life, your friends and your coworkers, and so much more. Learning the foundational pieces that mend, heal, and keep relationships strong is what you're going to learn inside. You're not going to want to miss it. So comment community and I'll make sure you get the link. But let's dive into this video a little bit deeper because you're not going to want to miss this one either. You stop looking at each other the way you used to. In the beginning, you noticed everything, the way they smiled, the way they walked into a room, the way your stomach flipped when you touched each other. You study them, you appreciate them, the attention becomes locked in. But years later, life fills the space where attention used to live. It becomes filled with work, bills, kids, stress, scheduling, phones, and so much more. And suddenly, the person you once stared across the table at for hours becomes the person that you walk past in the hallway without even seeing them. It's not a failure of love. It's typically a lack of focus. You often hear Dr. Joe Dispenza say, where focus goes, energy flows. And if your focus is on problems, stress, responsibility, and the day that you have day after day, all day long, that's where your focus goes. It becomes heavy, practical, logical, functional, and all you see is problems. You then become more like roommates than partners. This is a stage where most couples say the spark is gone. But what they're really describing is something that Tony Robbins teaches inside his relationship training all the time. Polarity and appreciation disappear when certainty replaces curiosity. So in other words, you think you already know them, so you stop discovering them. You stop pursuing them, you stop being curious, and you stop expressing the admiration that you once felt consistently. And the relationship slowly slides from passion to comfort to friendship to distance. And now let me be very clear. Friendship inside of a relationship is a very beautiful thing when intimacy is maintained. In fact, the strongest long-term couples become best friends. But friendship without intimacy becomes flat. It becomes predictable, it becomes polite, and eventually it becomes lonely, even though you're living in the same house. Deep friendship and intentional intimacy is the equation of a beautiful relationship. And that's where a lot of couples get stuck. They might have one without the other. And I know this because I went through it with my husband myself. We lived through it. We went through what I call the 3 dips, the 3-year, 7-year, and 10-year. At one point, we even separated. And not because anyone cheated or anyone did any wrong. It's because something fell apart, and it was where our attention was going. We became complete strangers under the same roof, and I refused to live that way, and so did he. So when life got loud, responsibilities got heavy, we experienced a ton of loss at that time, and we just said enough was enough. And so many couples drift without even realizing what's happening, just like we did. But here's what I want you to understand. The relationship didn't come back because time passed. It came back because we continued to talk to each other, and we realized and we recognized that the biggest piece was where our focus was, not on each other. It was on everything else but. So we started to focus on each other again. And then we became parents. And we swore when we had our child that we would always stay focused on each other because Dr. Phil McGraw specifies that when parents focus on each other, they're teaching their child how to have and maintain a beautiful relationship. Then the diagnosis started coming in. And with the diagnosis, the behaviors and the walking on eggshells. And the next thing we know, we're not focused on each other anymore. We're focused, hyper-focused on her. And then suddenly we're catching ourselves falling flat again. But the difference is we are able to now pull ourselves back and recognize where we went wrong and what was going on so we could fix it instead of running from it. I can now sit right now, 30 plus years later, out by the fire. And when I look at him, I see the man that I fell in love with, the man that's kind, protective, hardworking, the man that stays calm when things get chaotic, the man who becomes our rock when we're not so steady. the deep love for animals and creation, turning every property we've ever had into a beautiful oasis. And when I stop and I stare at the man staring in the fire, it makes my heart flutter. It makes me get emotional because 30 plus years, I still know what it feels like the same day we met. And that didn't happen by accident. It happened because we learned something important, and that was focusing on our relationship and our intimacy. See, relationships don't maintain themselves. They respond to the attention. Where the focus goes, the energy flows. Same with a garden. If you don't water it, it becomes overtaken by weeds, and eventually everything dies. So as long as you ignore it, it falls flat. But when you give it the right attention, it flourishes, it blossoms, it turns into a beautiful garden. And that's what you want your relationship to be. So you have to give it attention in the friendship zone and in the intimacy zone equally to have that balance. So let's start with the first shift that changed everything. Stop focusing on what's wrong with your partner and in your life. Start noticing what they are doing that's right. Your brain naturally scans for problems, so it's trying to protect you. But you chose this person to be protected by and with, and to feel safe with. So it's important to recognize the habits that are happening inside your relationship and start collecting evidence of what everything that is annoying you. They didn't do this. They forgot that. They are supposed to do this. They are supposed to do that. They said something wrong. They didn't help enough. They didn't do enough. And before long, the attention is trained to see all the flaws instead of the strengths. Again, Tony Robbins teaches it best. Appreciation is one of the most powerful emotions that you can enforce inside of a relationship, because appreciation creates expansion, criticism creates contracts. When people feel appreciated, they naturally lean in closer. When they feel criticized, they bolt out that door. So if intimacy feels distant, the first question you need to ask yourself is this: what am I focusing on most about this person? And this doesn't have to be your partner. It could be your kids, it could be your friends, it could be your extended family, it could be coworkers. What are you focusing on most with the relationship that's experiencing the most friction? Because your focus is shaping your emotional experiences every single day. And I can tell you firsthand, I experienced this with my dad. To make a long story short, when my mom passed, I got to a point where I was going to cut my dad out of my life forever, for good. And I'm so glad I didn't, because back then I didn't have the knowledge and the skills that I have today. Applying these relationship foundations allowed me to recognize what I was doing and my expectations on him, which drove our relationship in the toilet, Zeus wouldn't be able to keep up with. So I tell you this because it's important to understand what part you're playing. You cannot change and impact others, but you can change and impact yourself first. Again, if you want to dive in deeper, come join me inside my community, because starting March 16th, the Relationship Deeper Connection series is going to start. It's 14 days of learning these foundational tips to be able to heal mend any relationship. So don't hesitate, comment community below, and I'll get you the link so you can come in and join us so you're there and ready to start come March 16th. Now here's the second shift. Curiosity must replace assumptions and expectations. Long-term couples often believe that they know everything about each other. Reality is, we all grow and evolve. We all shift and change. So you're never going to know everything. But here's the truth. Why don't you grow and evolve together? Your partner today is not the exact same person they were 10 years ago, let alone 30 years ago. Their fears have changed. Their dreams have changed. As you age, your focus in that area of life changes. At 20 years old, you're not thinking about retirement, but at 50, you're certainly considering it. So everything shifts and change. So if you're not asking questions anymore, you're not discovering who they're becoming, and they're not discovering who you're becoming. And discovering is where the connection lives. Simple conversations can completely revive your intimacy. We still have fun and laugh together. We sometimes remove the logic, the bills, the worry, the schedule, the busyness, and become curious. We have fun. We act silly. We engage. We have conversations with each other and as a family. So what's been on your mind lately? What's something you wish you did more together of? What's been stressing you out when it comes to your relationship? And what might you not be seeing? Those conversations bring people back to each other in the current state in your current world. Now, the third shift is something most couples overlook entirely. Shared experiences rebuild emotional bonds faster than long conversations do. You can talk about fixing relationships all day long, but you have to experience it because the brain reconnects through experience. Laughter, movement, adventure, new environments, trying something different together. How many of you still have date night? How many of you have date nights with your kids? What about family game night? I know that seems little bit redundant at this day and age, but it helps build bonds. Even something as simple as sitting outside by the fire and shutting off the phones and just staring into the fire, being with each other, having soft, mild conversations, planning for your future, and taking the steps to make it happen. When the nervous system relaxes, the walls drop, the energy shifts, connection can return naturally. And the final piece that changed everything is personal responsibility. You've heard me say this throughout the entire video. It all started with me recognizing my part in all of it and letting go of the resistance. Forgiveness is powerful when you release expectations. It's easy to believe that a relationship will improve if other person changes. Reality is you can't control any of that. And the reality is if you're the one doing all the effort and it's not reciprocal, it's not going to mend. But the moment you take responsibility for your own energy inside your own relationship and they truly want to make it work and make it last, they'll start doing the same as well. I learned this lesson the hard way, like I say, with my dad. My willingness to understand my part, the fact that my expectations were so high that no one could ever meet them, shifted everything. And as I started to grow and evolve, I was able to forgive. And in my forgiveness, I was able to release him from the hold of expectations, from the hold of the hurt, the pain that was caused, that I felt was caused to me. I was able to release it all. And I actually have been able to help guide him into releasing it for himself. See, people who don't purposely do personal growth and personal development, they hang on the regret. And he had a lot of regrets during that time. We were all grieving our mother. Got to give ourselves some grace. We're not going to be perfect in a time that is happening. And as a family unit that was so tight to become so broken and divided and apart, to be able to bring those relationships back in and be able to mend them, not just with my dad, but with my brothers, has been powerful. It's been emotional because that's something I never ever thought I would see in this lifetime, but it's been one of the most beautiful journeys. Mending those relationships have been even more powerful than the ones with my husband because those were the ones that got severely broken. But it started with me changing me and releasing the expectations and the judgments on them. And that's the only way those relationships shifted. So the truth is the foundational pieces of any relationship is they're all the same with your partner, with your children, with your parents, with your friends, with your coworkers. The moment one person raises their level of awareness, their patience, their presence, forgiveness can set in and dramatic changes begin. And that's where the real power lies inside your relationship. Growth over perfection. And if you're watching this right now and you're thinking about your own relationship, here's a simple place to start today. Whatever relationship you feel friction in, whichever one, whether it be your partner, your kids, your parents, and so on, tonight, take one step back and just look at them like you once did when things were great. Not the person who forgot to take out the garbage when it comes to your partner, not the person who gave someone else attention when you felt you should have been getting it, which was happening with my dad. Not the person who's annoyed you earlier in the week. Look at the human being that you once chose. Notice something that you appreciate about them and remember what that feels like. Say it out loud. If you're able to, say it out loud to them. One moment of genuine appreciation can reopen emotional doors that have been closed for years. So one micro momentum I want you to try today. One appreciation, sincere, specific, spoken directly to them. And like I say, if you want to dive in deeper to rebuild the foundations, the connection, the communication, the emotional closeness inside of relationships, I've created something extremely special that's happening very soon inside the Annihilation Edge community. Starting March 16th, it's the 14-day Relationship Deeper Connection series. And I want to see you there. If you're experiencing friction now, or if you've experienced friction in the past, and you want to make sure the past doesn't repeat itself in the future, you're going to want to be in here and you're not going to want to miss this. Each day is less than 10 minutes. Simple insights, simple teachings, simple foundations, simple actions, but powerful shifts that can help you rebuild connection with the people who matter most. You'll find the details in the link below in the description. Take a look, come join us. I've also attached my 5-minute Calm Power Reset so that when you enter your email the first time, you're going to get that in your email. Continue on, fill out the community membership, come join us, introduce yourself, let us know who you are, who brought you in, why you're here, and what you expect to get out of the community. Because it's not going to be just about relationships. There's going to be so much more teachings and learnings to be had inside, and you can learn, grow, and evolve together. Bring your partner, have them set up an account too. Take care, my friend. We'll talk to you again soon.